friends, how are you today? If you did not have a chance to come to our class Zoom meeting yesterday, the first thing I want you to do before watching this video is I want you to go back to our Google site, and your grown-up can help you with that. And I want you to look at the read aloud that we did yesterday. I read Prince Cinders, and we made a Venn diagram comparing and contrasting, talking about things that were the same and different about Prince Cinders and Cinderella, the original fairy tale. But today, I'm going to read a different fractured version of Cinderella, and it's actually an ebook, which means that it's a book that's on my computer, so I'm going to be able to share the screen to share this book with you. But this book is the story of Cinderella. But instead of being told by a narrator, it's told by the stepmother. And so we're going to hear her side of the story and what she thinks about Cinderella going to the ball. So I'm going to share my screen with you to read, seriously, Cinderella is so annoying. The story of Cinderella as told by the wicked stepmother. And so we're going to see what she thinks about the story of Cinderella. So while we're reading the story, I want you thinking about the character traits that you thought Cinderella had in the original story. Think about what kind of friend Cinderella was, okay? Then I want you to think about this story, how Cinderella seems in this story and how her character might be different from the stepmother's point of view, from her perspective, the way that she sees things. And we're going to talk about how the character of Cinderella is different and in some ways the same in the two stories. Okay, here we go. This book is told by Tricia Speed Shaskin. So she is the author. Authors write the book, and it's illustrated by Gerald Gorlace. So Gerald drew or painted the pictures. So the wicked stepmother seems to think that Cinderella is annoying. That's not a very kind word. That's not something that we would say to anyone that we know or any of our friends. So let's see why she thinks that of Cinderella. You must have heard of me, the wicked stepmother. Not true. It's just another one of Cinderella's wild stories. Not as wild as the one about the pumpkin and the fairy godmother. The real story, the true story, began with some chatter and some dust. So here's the wicked stepmother. Let's see what she has to say. All I ever wanted was a husband and a mansion. Before I married Cindy's father, my two darlings and I had met Cindy only a few times. The girl had seemed normal then. After I married Cindy's father, my darlings and I moved in. Who are her two darlings? Two stepsisters. When I had just 1 foot on the front step, my dear husband kissed me goodbye and said, I'm off on business. He leaves often. Often means a lot, Cindy said. But the animals stay put. They talk, they joke, they sing. They even help out, especially the bluebirds. So here's Cinderella in the back talking to the animals. What does her stepmother think of this? She looks a little concerned. Now, I don't mind a story, but I like facts, not fiction. Soon the girl was talking all kinds of hokey pokey. Once upon a time, Cindy said, one of the bluebirds became blue, not the color, the feeling. His friends had flown south. My darlings and I were stuck near the front door. I just wanted to put away my bags, and that's when I saw it. Dust. Here, is the whole house this dusty? I asked. I don't know, Cindy said. I'll give you a tour. In the dining room, Cindy told stories. In the study, Cindy told stories non-stop. Girls, I said, time to get to work. This place needs a good cleaning. Once upon a time when I was cleaning, Cindy started. Oh boy. So, how is the stepmother feeling? Do you remember Cinderella acting like this in the original story? Cindy mopped the floor, but she finished so fast. My darlings had barely started. Did you know robins and sparrows are my friends? She said. But the sparrows don't like the robins. Silly creatures. Once upon a time, one of the robins... Cindy, dear, I said, why don't you go and wash the clothes now? Seems like the stepmother is getting annoyed by all of Cindy's stories because Cindy seems to be talking all the time. But Cindy washed them so fast. How on earth did she do it? I had to find another chore for her just to keep her busy. If there's one thing squirrels love, it's washing clothes, Cindy said. The rats, though, would rather iron. You know, one day squirrels and rats doing laundry, quit telling such foolish stories, I said. Time passed, but nothing changed. In the garden, Cindy told stories. In the kitchen, Cindy told stories. At dinner, I couldn't hear myself think. Dear, please, I said, stop talking. But Cindy didn't stop. Look at her stepsisters. Have you ever seen your teacher or your grown-up look like this? Oh my goodness, that stepsister even put broccoli in her ears to keep herself from hearing Cinderella. They are getting very frustrated. One day a letter arrived. It was an invitation to the king's ball. The prince would surely fall in love with one of my darlings. Then they would marry, live in a beautiful castle, and one day be king and queen of all the land. Oh, stepmother, I have to go too, said Cindy. Once upon a time, a girl and a prince. And then, just like that, Cindy lost her voice. Imagine, it had to be from all of that storytelling. Well, what can I do? I told Cindy she had to stay home. Why does Cinderella have to stay home, according to the stepmother? Let's see. For her health. She cried, of course, but a ball was no place for a sick girl. She needed rest. Sometimes it's so hard being a stepmother. Do you believe Cinderella's version of what happened, or do you believe the stepmother's version of what happened? Why do you think so? At the ball, my darlings twirled, they whirled, but then some strange girl walked in. Her gown was magnificent. I couldn't take my eyes off of it. What does the word magnificent mean? Let me read those few sentences again. Let's see if we can get any clues from the story. But then some strange girl waltzed in. Her gown was magnificent. I couldn't take my eyes off it. I wondered how much it cost and if my seamstress could copy it for me. So she couldn't take her eyes off of it. And she wanted her seamstress, her sewing helper, to copy it for her. So she wanted one just like it. So do you think that magnificent is a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's pretty good. Her gown was magnificent. So that seems to be a word that's describing her gown. So magnificent must mean really beautiful, really wonderful, because everyone wants one, and she couldn't stop looking at it. The prince and the girl danced and pranced. My poor darlings were left princeless. A few days later, the prince made an announcement. A glass slipper had been left at the castle. The prince would marry the girl whose foot it fit. Our big chance. What is the stepmother thinking might happen? She might think that one of her darlings could fit the slipper. After visiting every other mansion in the neighborhood, the prince's valet arrived at our door. Me, said one of my darlings. No, me, said the other. One at a time, said the valet. Each girl tried, but the shoe didn't fit. Then Cindy pushed out a whisper. Please, let me try. Do you think it's going to fit Cinderella? The shoe fit! Cindy pulled the match out of her pocket. What? My darlings cried. Cindy pushed out another whisper. She said something about a pumpkin coach and mice that turned into horses. She even added a fairy godmother. Please, there's no such thing. But I still don't know where she got those shoes. A few days later, the prince married Cindy. Poor man, he had no idea what he was getting himself into. But we lived happily ever after. The end. So, why did the stepmother say that Cinderella couldn't go to the ball? So, whose version of the story do you believe? So think about Cinderella in the first story, in the original Cinderella. What were some words that we could use to describe her? Let me pull up my character chart. So we're going to use the blue pen to talk about Cinderella's character traits in the original story. I'm going to go ahead and pull out my blue pen. So what is a word that we could use to describe Cinderella in the original story? Well, we might say that she was hard working because she was always doing her chores. Think of another character trait that we could use to describe Cinderella in the original story. Tell a grown up. Okay, now tell the screen. Let's see if I can read your mind. Okay. Maybe some of you are thinking that Cinderella was kind because she was kind and she was friendly to all of the animals, like the birds and the mice. Okay. What are some other words that we might use to describe Cinderella? We know that she was humble. We've talked about what the word humble means before, but was Cinderella the type of person to brag about things? No. And so she was very humble. She didn't like to brag, even though she looked so beautiful after the fairy godmother transformed her and transformed her pumpkin. She still didn't brag, so she was very humble. Okay, are there any other words we could use to describe Cinderella? She was also very quiet. She was very quiet, very soft-spoken. So she didn't really say a whole lot in the original story. Okay, now let's talk about what the stepmother thinks about Cinderella. What are some character traits that the stepmother would use to describe Cinderella in her version of the story? Was Cinderella quiet? No, she was loud. She was a chatterbox, wasn't she? She was very loud. Still working on my screen. I'm still learning, just like you guys are. So she would say that Cinderella was not quiet. She was loud. Okay? Would the stepmother say that Cinderella was kind? Maybe. What are some other words that the stepmother might have used to describe Cinderella? All the stories she used to tell. If I were the stepmother, I would maybe say that Cinderella was pretty silly because she didn't think that any of those stories were real. She thought that Cinderella had made them all up. What are some other words that the stepmother would use to describe Cinderella? Think about the title of the story. Seriously, Cinderella is so annoying, and that's not a very kind word that we would want to use. But she thought that Cinderella was annoying because she was always talking. Are there any other character traits that you think the stepmother might use to describe Cinderella? I'm going to leave this one empty. I want you to brainstorm and see if you and your adult or you and your friend or you and your brother and your sister can come up with another character trait that the stepmother might use to describe Cinderella. Think of how Cinderella is on the inside. We want to talk about character traits, what kind of friend that she is. So do some brainstorming, and then I want you to decide whose version of the story do you believe? Do you believe Cinderella's point of view, or do you believe the stepmother's point of view? Does this story remind you of any other fractured fairy tales that we've read before? I'm going to be thinking about that too. Have a great day, friends. I can't wait to see what you think.